Yeah, so the Hinterwelt is Nietzsche's term for the behind world. That's what it literally means. It's German for behind world. And Nietzsche has a great chapter in Twilight of the Idols, my favorite book, where he details the history of Western philosophy according to the idea of this Hinterwelt, this behind world. So since Plato, he thinks philosophy has been an attempt to sort of reach this behind world, to escape from this current world and find meaning and fulfillment in the behind world. And the first example of this is obviously with Plato's forms. And for Plato, uh, the forms are reachable, in the famous allegory of the cave. If you become a philosopher and act morally, you can reach the good and sort of partake in the true reality. The true reality is available to the sage and the wise man. Then in Christianity, the true world is not accepted. Not You can't reach it right now, but it's promised to you later. To the sage, again, to the sinner who repents. Then you sort of get the Enlightenment, and you get the Kantian behind world, which is the noumena. Famously Kant divides between the appearance and reality, the way things appear, and the thing in itself that we have no knowledge or access to. And the thing in itself is the Hinterwelt this time. But the thing about the thing in itself is now that it's you can't access it, you can't know anything about it. It's just there, and you just know it's there, and it's supposed to still give you moral duty and obligations. But it can't do that. What he's tracing in this chapter is sort of the way that the Hinterworld has been slipping from our hands. Philosophy has been less and less able to sort of justify, to come up with a world, behind world, that justifies this current world. And so, sort of the Enlightenment project is basically to say, let's just get rid of this world. We don't need this world. But the problem is that the values we use now are still based on the idea that this behind world, this hinterworld, still exists, right? And in doing so, we place a negative value judgment on this world because it gets redeemed when the other world grounds it. So when we get rid of the other world, we're just left with the negative value judgment on this world, and that's it. And that's the nihilism that Nietzsche is so worried about.
Explain to me how one more time how we get from abandoning the other world to nihilism.
So the point
Oh
of the
wait, wait,
other
wait.
world.
So it's that if there is no goal to reach that higher world, then and you're left with just this current world that you interpret as being worse or not worth anything, then nothing matters because none of your actions are going toward reaching this higher world, this better world. So nothing matters then.
Yes, yes, yes. According to sort of the culture and the tradition we've borne up with, right? Our current world is only valuable insofar as it leads to the real world, that we're partaking in by doing philosophy or by being religious or whatever else it may be. When we get rid of the real world, um, we basically the world becomes valueless. Like there is no value in the world. The important to note, and this is where sort of Nietzsche will interject and say that nihilism isn't a necessary um, result from the fact that there is no other world. It's the fact that there is no other world, plus the fact that we believe that the other world is the only thing that can redeem this current world. Sort of the fact that we still hold on to this goal oriented behavior, the nous, as I was saying from Socrates before, um, because we have this teleological goal oriented mindset in always trying to find value in sort of like a future that we're never reaching, something that we can't, that isn't in the here and the now, right? All these philosophical systems and all these um, hinterwells are never the here and the now. They're always something that's hidden and that it's our task to realize, right? Um, yeah, so it's sort of a combination of those two. And Nietzsche will interject here, as I was saying, by instead of trying to to come up with a new goal, right? Which is, I think, a lot of what is being done in a lot of movements right now. I think the existentialist movement, which while is always inspired by Nietzsche, is profoundly anti-Nietzschean in the sense that that is what they do. When they say sort of God can't give us the purpose, so it's sort of like our it's up to us to create a purpose. I think from a Nietzschean perspective, they're still operating under the teleological assumptions of sort of the Hinterwelt, and so it'd be mostly insufficient. The goal of Nietzsche's work is to get rid of this teleology, get rid of a desire for another world, get rid of the desire to be saved. It's an anti-soteriology, right? And this is where the parallels with Zen come in.
So I do want to get to the Zen Buddhism. We were talking about how in modern day though that we have a lot of people have abandoned this idea of religious salvation, this the soteriology in the form of religious, although it's not gone, but it's certainly much less than it was in the past. But that's kind of being replaced with like earthly or ideal, like it's like the idea of Plato's forms. They're not grounded in something divine, but they they exist very much in the form of like an ideal form of love,
Yes,
an
yes, yes,
ideal
yes.
form of success, something like that, and we can see that, and please tell me if you disagree with me, but we can see that in the way that we have dating apps now, or we have like these different systems that are supposed to try to get us to create the perfect form of something. Even with food, right? We have all these genetic modifications of this food to make it look, and when you see it in the grocery store, you don't see the way fruit looks just naturally. It's like they try to do things to food to make the apple more red, to make the banana more yellow, because it's like we're trying to create the ideal apple, the ideal banana, the ideal form of love, the ideal career, or like even in with all this and this might be a controversial point, but with all of this like meditation and self-help and therapy and all these things, like I'm trying to create the ideal, like there's almost an obsession with people in our generation of like I'm trying to create the perfect experience in my life where I don't feel pain, I don't suffer, I don't care what other people think, I don't I'm free to do whatever I want. There's no consequences. I fully accept who I am. Like, and I'm just kind of in this flow state.
Yes,
I
yes, absolutely. I 100% agree with everything you said. It's very striking, I think. And from a Nietzschean point of view, we would say that this instinct to create the ideal is always born in a profound hatred of the actual. Right? You just think that existence right now, the way things are, is unacceptable. You have a sort of instinctive fear and hatred of it, and so the only way you can cope with this is by projecting how you want existence to be in some sort of ideal which you strive towards. And I mean, yeah, a lot of the problems I think are caused by this. Again, the fact that teleology, the news goal oriented behavior, is baked into sort of like everything, the way we do things. And the problem with doing this is that it divides things into good and bad, right? Either you are acting according to um, the telos, the goal, which is the goal of all of existence, right? If we look at it from a more religious sense as well, if you come up with sort of all of existence being directed towards some other thing like the Hinterwelt, like heaven, then everything is either in accordance with this, is more real, or it is not. And anything that is not in accordance with the purpose of the universe is bad, is to be destroyed. It's something that you want to excise from yourself. And the problem is that a lot of the instincts we have are things that we would judge to be not in accordance with this telos. So we come to sort of hate ourselves. This is Nietzsche's point of resentment. Um, yeah.
but we should be, according to Nietzsche, we should be embracing all of those things and seeing them as good in and of itself. Not We shouldn't be striving to change those things, but we should be striving to see those things and embrace those things as something that is both necessary and positive.
Yes, yes. Well, the main attitude Nietzsche calls us to embrace is an attitude of amor fati, right? Which is something he takes from the Stoics and literally means love of one's fate. It's the idea of just being completely content with the here and now and wanting absolutely nothing to be different, all in the past and forever in the future. And yeah, he's also stresses sort of unity of opposites. His book Beyond Good and Evil, the really famous one, it's obviously arguing against the binary of good and evil, but it's also arguing against binaries in general. And this is because for Nietzsche, all sort of these phenomena are interlinked. Good and evil and right and wrong and all these things are only make sense in opposition to each other. So you can't really remove sort of this one part that you don't like and sort of only focus on the good part. Um, you know, I think the best point you can see this is with like joy and suffering. I mean, Nietzsche himself talks about this. This is his own life is a testament to this in some sense. Because even though he suffered like heavily, he would have moments of incredible joy as soon as he was healthy. He was completely sick and didn't, was vomiting, couldn't see, had intense migraines for weeks on end. And then as soon as he came out of his sort of period of illness, he would go on these insane, like 8-hour hikes and, write entire books in multiple days, in just a few days. And the way he describes it, at least in particular his autobiography Ecce Homo, if that's where you want to see most of that books, is well, it's very interesting to see the least. And I think Nietzsche himself embodies this sort of attitude that he's advocating for, this unity of opposites, this paradox of sort of health and sickness and truth and falsity and good and
Beyond,
bad and joy and
be,
suffering.
beyond the good and evil.
Yeah, indeed.
So you I want to transition because you talk about in your paper that I mentioned at the top of the show, this idea of eternal recurrence, and how that very much plays a role in, I believe, how that plays a role in Nietzsche's idea of how we should avoid or turn away from the soteriological perspective.